Greetings and welcome to the Industrial Lens Podcast. Here we examine cutting-edge insider knowledge on industrial equipment, strategy, and trends so that you can thrive and stay ahead of any challenges, seen or unseen. Now, let's get industrial.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Industrial Lens Podcast. My name is Jeremy King, and I am joined today by Gil Valentin, VP of Sales and Marketing at BrinkAlert. Welcome to the show today, Gil. I wanted to kick off with allowing you to introduce yourself a bit more and introduce what BrinkAlert does and what kind of solutions it provides.
Sure. I appreciate it. First of all, I appreciate having me on the show. I appreciate the time. And like you mentioned, my name is Gil Valentin. I am the VP of Sales at BrinkAlert. It's VP of Sales and Marketing. So BrinkAlert manufactures an alert safety systems for commercial garage doors, warehouses, loading docks, fire stations. We do in-house warehouse solutions like a traffic control system within the warehouse. Safety is really our niche. It's what we focus on. So a lot of our solutions, a lot of our alert system, it's a way to manage safety within the warehouse. So that's what BrinkAlert focuses on. It's just bringing that safety component to these type of industrial working environments.
Okay. What kind of alerts does BrinkAlert's products typically provide, and what scenarios would those be used in, and who typically uses those?
Sure. So they can be used in any scenario, any industrial warehouse where you have forklifts, pedestrian, where they kind of have to coexist, where they have to kind of cross paths, and we can kind of communicate to whether it's somebody driving a forklift or a pedestrian, kind of give them that heads up or communicate to them and say, hey, around that corner, there's danger. So our light system will give you a standard red for stop, green for go. I think one of our, an area where we're really making a lot of headway, it's the fire stations. Fire stations has become a great niche for us where we can mount a 5-foot or a 10-foot strip on each side of the door, and this light system is going to communicate to the driver when it's safe for him to pull out of the bay. A lot of the times these firefighters, they're in a rush, they're getting a call to an emergency. These guys are just trying to rush out of the door or out of the bay, and the trucks are just so huge. They got a ladder hanging over them. So a lot of times they can't see when the door's fully open. And they're in a rush to get to this emergency, and the door's not fully open. They don't see it because they got this ladder hanging over their head, and then they rush out of the bay and they take the door with them. Now they damage the door. So now they got another issue in hand. Now they got to replace a door. They got to pay for that repair. Maybe they got damage on the truck. Now they got lost of use. They can't exit out of that doorway anymore or enter. And now the truck might not be usable depending on what happens. So that's a very common problem or a common situation that these fire stations have as it relates to safety. Trying to get to where they need to be in a rush time, but also being safe about it. So yeah, I think the fire station has been a great solution for these kind of scenarios.
Oh, I see. Thanks. Can you walk us through what's included in one of the systems? How does it actually work with existing dock doors? And does this replace something that is now pretty much obsolete because of what BrinkAlert does, or what's the scenario there for how BrinkAlert came to be in the marketplace?
Yeah, so we're not replacing anything. We're not altering anything there. Our system is universal, so we can tie into any operator that's out there in the marketplace. So all we're doing is just taking our system and working it's already there with the existing operator. So we sell our product in a kit. Everything needed, everything required for this first-time installation is going to come in that kit. This is going to include your LED strips. The customer will have an option to pick a 5-foot strip or a 10-foot strip. They have the option to mount it just on one side of the door. or they can mount it on both sides of the door. They can do the inside, the bay, the inside, and or the outside. So those options are available, but they will get their LEDs, the mounting tracks, harness cable, or LED controller, power supply, and signal wire. All of this comes in the kit. So once they receive the kit, it's just a matter of doing the installation. The installation is pretty easy. We do support the installers. We'll provide an installation manual. We'll provide a wiring schematic. We do have live tech support where the installer, or a lot of times with these fire stations, those guys are handy enough or they can themselves do it, just follow the instructions, and they themselves can mount the track, slide the LED through, and then run the harness back to our controller. So it's a universal system. It's a programmable system where we can program it to do whatever it is that the customer would like. In the case when the door is fully closed, it's going to give you a solid red. And when the door is fully open, it'll give you a solid green. And then we can do things like having it flash while the door is in motion. We can do a pre-announce where we can have it flash amber, say 5-6 seconds right before the door comes down. We can have the light flashing amber, so that way it indicates, those around the door say, this door's about to come down. Let me get out of the way, or, So installation is fairly easy. Everything needed comes all in one kit, all in one box. We're not altering anything. We're not doing anything. You don't have to reinvent the wheel or anything. We'll walk you step by step with all the installation and the wiring needed.
Okay. Does the system include safety alerts for movements or people walking by or in front doors? And how does that work, if so?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things, I said the system's universal. The other thing I said, it's programmable. So we can program it to do different things. Just as I was giving the example of the fire department, a lot of these doors, they'll have a safety eye. We can tie into that safety eye, and the safety system, the system will communicate to us, or will let us know if there's something wrong with that safety eye. So if there's something wrong with the safety eye not working for whatever reason, we can have the lights flash blue, as an example. We can have them flashing blue. That way, those around the door can come by and say, the light's flashing blue, something's wrong with the photo eye. Or if sometimes in a warehouse, somebody might be walking with a box and then they get called, maybe they're walking through a doorway and somebody calls their name and they put that box down and now they're obstructing the passage or the photo eye, and then that door doesn't come down. So then we can have the light flash amber or flash purple, a different color. That all can be programmed to whatever color the customer wants. But it's another indicator letting us know, hey, something is obstructing the photo eye. That's why the door's not coming down. So those are a couple examples. And another example would be we can also tie our controller to a sensor. So now if we want the system to pick up a pedestrian who might be walking across a dock, a loading dock, and maybe there's a forklift inside the trailer loading and unloading, but they don't see this person who's walking across and they're about to back out, we can work with a sensor and program that sensor, say, 5 feet, 10 feet, whatever you want to program the sensor at, to pick up that pedestrian and then communicate to those around the door, or communicate to that person who's in the trailer loading and unloading. We can have the lights flashing, amber, white, whatever color they may want. But that's just, again, another indicator saying, hey, there's a guy back here. Don't back out. Wait until he crosses the path, or at least he leaves the zone of the sensor, and then it'll give you that safety light, white, green, or give you a green again. And now the guy knows, okay, it's secure. The guy has passed. I can now back up. So we can do things like that where we can pick up a pedestrian or a forklift, and then we can give it priority. We can say, in the case, we have another product. It's one of our inside warehouse traffic control systems, specifically for these blind corners. Sometimes you may, you're working in a warehouse and you're turning a corner, but you don't know what's on the other side of that corner. There could be a forklift or another person. So we can set up our system where, with the use of a sensor, and we program the sensors a certain distance, and then we give it a priority to either the vehicle or the person and say, okay, we're going to stop every person, maybe easier to stop a person than to stop a vehicle. We'll give the red to the pedestrian, and then we'll give the green to the vehicle on the other side.
Is that pretty common that you're setting this up for facilities that have individuals walking around as well as forklifts? And does that include any interaction with automated mobile robots or AGVs as well?
Yeah, I think that's pretty common. You got these warehouses where there's a lot going on, and you've got pedestrians that are working alongside vehicles. And there's, we always get calls where, oh, well, I got this particular corner. All the other corners are okay, but there's this one particular corner where there's a blind spot, and for some reason, vehicles and pedestrians meet in this corner. And, we almost had a close call one day, and it's usually how it goes. But is it common? Yes, it's pretty common. But our solution to it is our safety light system that's going to communicate to either that pedestrian or that forklift driver or vehicle driver through the use of a sensor, where the sensor can pick up either or.
Is that scenario where there are a lot of close calls or maybe an accident typically what leads someone to come to you, or do you see that some of your customers are just more proactive when they're setting up a new facility that they'll come to you, or how does that usually work?
Yeah, that's a great question. Unfortunately, I think we see more people reach out and inquire more about it when something almost happened or something did happen. We really try to communicate to customers, and we really try to market this product as something preventive. It is an accessory light. It's something that we're adding to what you already have there. But I think some people, not all, some people may say, hey, so far I've done good. I don't need anything additional. And a lot of people are under budget, so maybe budget sometimes is a big factor. But yeah, unfortunately, I think that we see that more where people will reach out when a piece of paper lands on their desk and the boss says, hey, I need to take care of this now.
Do you find that they usually know that? I guess, how do they go about? Do you find that they're typically searching how to prevent run-ins at entryways or something like that? Or do you know, generally speaking, what leads them to find you in particular? I come from the marketing world. My day job, I do sell industrial products, but just interested in what would typically lead someone to search for a product like yours.
Yeah.
Are they searching on a higher level, or do they know actually, I need something like this because I know that lighting alert systems or audio alert systems actually exist?
Yeah. I still think that I think there's people that they know there's something out there, but they just haven't come across a situation where they felt they needed it. They may say to themselves, yeah, you know what, we can use that system. I think that would really help our, that blind corner we have, or that can help us in this area. But I think that a lot of times we see this in fire station a lot. I think it's very common where, I think every firefighter that we've met, everybody's got a story. Everybody can tell you a story and say, oh, yeah, I hit the door. I was that guy. Oh, yeah. And then, they all joke about it. But I think until something happens. And then I think the other reason, too, is I think they try different things in the market.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of the things that they try don't work as good. Or they find that maybe what they get, it's not, it doesn't communicate properly like they would like it, to be more effective than what they want. So then they go out and they try different things. A lot of people will go through and they Google us, or maybe they've seen us at a trade show, or they've seen us at, some event, and they always have us in mind. We always get calls, oh yeah, I met you a couple years ago and I need you now. So, and that's not to say that there are people proactive. I think there are a few people who are proactive and they say, yeah, we need that. But I think if we were to say, I think there's more people that would say, well, we've done pretty good so far.
Sure.
Let's just keep rolling the dice.
Is there a typical way that you see your clients justify the investment or try to measure the ROI, or is it pretty much all for them just in trying to eliminate injury. I don't know if OSHA violations ever come into play with your customer, if that's commonplace, or what are they doing to justify it internally?
Yeah, I think that's, and that's something that we try to educate the customer in. That's part of, when we talk to customers and we're talking to folks, and, part of the features, the benefits of this is the ROI on it. One accident, if you can just save one accident, you paid for that system.
Sure.
The system's not, it's pretty inexpensive for what it's doing. In the case of a fire station, if you can eliminate one truck going through a door, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. Those doors are not cheap, and to repair a truck is not cheap. And that's just on physical stuff. And, what legal liability, what if somebody gets hurt? Then that's, and that's where people really kind of say, oh man, yeah, we need to get this. So the ROI is definitely there. I mean, you're talking $1,000, couple $1,000, as opposed to, $30,000 and having to repair a door and, trucks and, or somebody gets hurt, that bill goes up from there. But yeah, the return is definitely there.
I see. Would you say that fire stations are probably your biggest user of your product? I know that you've mentioned forklifts, et cetera, so it sounds like some warehousing as well.
Yeah. We, I think fire station, there's a lot of opportunity for us, because I think our system is just a better product. And I'm not saying that because our product, but, a lot of the stuff you see out there is you see, the traffic light. A traffic light is not as visible. It's a little dot where we have we'll run a strip all along the side of the door where you can, it's hard to miss, and then we can program it to flash and change colors so that this thing is talking to you. This thing is saying, hey, don't go. Something's happening. The door's moving. Stop. The bright red, the bright green. So, yeah, I think that the communication that the system provides on site at the doorway speaks a lot. But we've done a lot of these UPS warehouses, FedEx, Amazon, some of those we've done as well. Loading docks, we've done a lot of those. But I think at least for me, I think the fire station, I think that's just I think it's just beneficial for everybody. These guys, they need to have the best equipment to do their job. They're out there serving their community. They have to have whatever, the best equipment that they can use to do their job to the best of their ability. And I think this light system provides that. It allows them to get out of there quickly, efficiently, without anybody getting hurt, any trucks getting hurt, any doors getting hurt. So, yeah, for me, I'm a big fan of the fire stations.
Gotcha. Do you have a particular success story that stands out the most to you where you made, I guess, a major difference for a client?
Yeah, I think that, again, I keep bringing up these fire stations because, we see the difference right away. We've had fire stations, we've had guys where they'll come up and say, oh man, these doors, I've tried this traffic light, I've tried this other system. A lot of times those guys will rig something, they'll make something up. They'll go to Home Depot and just put something together. And it's good, we do a lot of these trade shows. So you run into a lot of them, from trade show to trade show. And it's great when these guys come up to you and say, hey man, yeah, your system's working great. Nobody's at the door. It's such a big difference than that little thing that we were using. So those stories are great to hear, to know that the system is actually working.
Okay, great. That's interesting to know, just the kind of experiences that your customers have had and the successes that they've had. Right here, we will pause for a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Unlock reliability with Caster Connection, the leader in industrial caster solutions for over 35 years. Together, we can keep your business in motion while maximizing efficiency, safety, and ROI. Contact us to transform your operation or use promo code STREAM10 for 10% off at casterconnection.com. Act fast, limited time offer exclusive to website orders. Not valid with other offers.
All right, thanks. We're back from break here. We're here with Gil Valentin, Sales and Marketing VP at BrinkAlert. One thing that I wanted to revisit, Gil, was actually how BrinkAlert came to be, or if the organization existed selling something else, and then the product that you've described now throughout the episode. So I was just curious if the company was founded from someone that kind of was in this safety ecosystem or warehouse fire station ecosystem before.
Yeah, no, that's actually funny because so the founder of the company, his name is Jonathan Brinkman. He's an IT guy, computer guy. He was actually director of IT at one of the communities down in Key Largo. And there he was actually in charge of their access control. So he was responsible for everybody who came in and out of the facility. So he worked with, at the time, he worked with our chief, who today's our chief engineer, Randy Perez. They were working together. And long story short, they were trying to figure out how to keep these cars hitting these barrier arms. You know, they kept running through, you know, people kind of rush in behind the other car. Randy says, I can put a light on this barrier arm and we can have it red for stop, grief will go. And, so Jonathan said, oh, okay, great. So, they gave that a go. It worked out. And that's how Gate Arms Plus came about. So they started this company called Gate Arms Plus, where they were manufacturing an LED barrier gate arm. It was an accessory, and they started selling that through distributors. And then along the way, they changed the model and they fixed things up and all of that. As they're starting this business, they were attending a lot of trade shows, trying to make connections and meet people, try to grow this business. And they were at a trade show, and a customer or, somebody in the trade show comes up and he's having a conversation with Jonathan. And he says, hey, do you think you can put those lights on a loading dock or, commercial garage door on a door? Jonathan looked at him, kind of looked at the light and said, yeah, I could do that. And pretty much that's how BrinkAlert came about. BrinkAlert came about, and it started with the actual warehouse. The fire station thing came along maybe not too long ago, where, we saw the opportunities also with the fire station. And we said, hey, we might have something here with the fire stations. And then from there, just, other products and other things, and it just grew. And basically, the products come from customers. Customers, I think that's how a lot of our products have come about. Just somebody asking, hey, you think, I have this problem. You think you can fix this for me? Oh, yeah, we can definitely find a solution for you. And that's pretty much how everything kind of grew and came to be. And here we are.
Yeah, that's a nice way to do it so that you don't have to spend so much time on R&D. How do you approach marketing in such a technical and specialized space like industrial safety? I know from us talking prior to this episode and checking out each other's LinkedIn profiles, I know that you have other background than this. So I don't know if you came from worlds where you had to communicate some more technical aspects, but how does BrinkAlert or you as the person in charge of marketing approach getting the word out there about your product and getting people to understand it?
No, I'm definitely not the technical guy.
Okay.
My background's more on the sales management part, so I stick to that. But, we've looked at different ways, and I'm sure, every company has this conversation, how do you go out and find leads, and how do you generate them? How do you get customers? And, our sales model here, for BrinkAlert at least, we said, well, you know what, we're going to sell directly to the dealer, the installer. Yeah. So now we can work together with this installer, build a relationship, support that installer with whatever he needs pertaining to our product so that he feels comfortable enough to take our product to his customer. So we've done it that way where we've marketed to these dealers, these installers, and we've done it however we could do it, whether we go to trade shows, email blasts, on the phone, sending, mailing, mail out, any way that we can do it to reach out to these guys, just to create the awareness that we exist, that there's another option for them. So we've done it that way. We've done it also, we've reached out to the end user in a lot of cases. We've tried to drive business back to the installer by us marketing to the end user. to the actual warehouse, and the warehouse will reach out and we'll just direct them. Yeah, sure. We can answer any questions they have about the product, but, we'll say to them, best way to get this product is go to your dealer. If you don't have one, we'll recommend one to you. So, these overhead door guys, they're across the country. So we can distribute our product, from the East Coast to the West Coast through those guys.
So when you say dealers, that's typically what you're referring to is like overhead door installation companies. Okay.
Yeah, the installer guys. Yeah, the installer guys. The guys driving around in the truck.
Is that kind of the same philosophy for the gate arms company, where those would be companies that install gate arms, where you're reaching out to them, or is that evolved?
So with the gate arms, we did it a little differently. The gate arms, we actually do it through distributors. So we're actually doing it through these access control distributors. Is who we did it through with the gate arms. Product's a little different product. So, we wanted to keep it simple for us as well to be able to move the product. The barrier also with the shipping, that's a whole nother story, when we talk about shipping these long barrier arms. So it's easier to do it through distributors. So they have the warehouses across the country. They can stock it in their warehouse. Easier for the dealer or for the installer, the gate installer, to go to their local distributor, pick up a barrier arm. So yeah, a little better to do it that way. Yeah.
Okay. Automation is certainly becoming more and more prevalent in society and in industries, of course, on kind of automated intelligence side and with robotics. So where do you see BrinkAlert heading in the next few years, especially as robotics become more prevalent in mobility around warehouses, maybe not fire stations so much, but warehousing, distribution, et cetera?
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those things, get with the time or you stay behind type of thing. Yep. But, what we're working and moving towards like IoT type of thing, something where, with our controller, you can gather data at a site, at a door, somebody remotely can manage that door from an office and take information from our controller where they can say, hey, this door's not working for X reason, or, the operator's out, the power's out. So I think that's kind of where we're headed, where, now you can do things remotely, and the installer or the dealer now doesn't have to drive 45 minutes, an hour to go look at a door and see what happened. A lot of times they can just, from their laptop, from their computer, they can kind of diagnose the problem.
Yeah. Okay. If someone's listening right now and they're considering upgrading their dock or safety systems, or as you mentioned a little bit ago, their gate arms safety features, where should they start? How can they go about finding more information about BrinkAlert or Gate Arms Plus?
Yeah, we always encourage people to go to our website. Go to BrinkAlert.com, GateArms.com. We've got a lot of information on there. We got a lot of technical spec sheets, anything that they need. And then we always say, hey, give us a call. We've got live tech support. If somebody has a technical question, they can always call our tech support line and get answers. We can always walk somebody through a wiring right on the phone. So, yeah, we encourage people to reach out to us directly, whether it's the website or, call us on the phone.
Okay, great. All right. Well, Gil, that's all that we had listed to talk about today. Is there anything else that you wanted to throw in or bring up that you thought would be relevant to our audience? And if not, that's all good.
No, I appreciate the time. I just hope that those listening really take in consideration the safety component of our product. I think in these industrial places, safety does need to be priority. It has to be number one. People have to look out for their people, make sure that they're in a safe environment. They're not going to get injured, hurt, or anything like that, or any of their equipment is going to suffer any damage or anything. So, I do hope that people can look into it at the very least, at least inquire, get some info, and see if it's a good fit. Maybe it's not a good fit for everybody, but, it doesn't hurt to at least, have a conversation with us.
Yeah, it's a topic that really makes sense to give some attention to. So glad that we were able to connect and record this together.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it. And I appreciate the time. I thank you for having me on. And maybe we can do another one sometime in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Once again, I've been joined by Gil Valentin, VP of Sales and Marketing at BrinkAlert. Thanks, Gil.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks.
Have a good one, man.
You
Take
too.
care.